to Torrey Krug to Brody to Barry. There's a lot of great defensemen. So this market's going to go up, and this is why I don't know if it's just inexperience from a GM standpoint. Is that I just think I would have gotten so far ahead of Spurgeon because now by waiting, the market has already started to shift. And this is going to be an expensive contract. And I do think that Jared Spurgeon is going to play hardball. I don't think that he's just going to stay here for the right financial package. As I've written and as Jared has said, he wants to know the future vision of this team and how they're going to win. And Paul's going to have to convince him of that before Jared even thinks about signing on the dotted line. And so this is definitely that Trouba deal. I cannot imagine that when Paul Fenton saw the numbers that he was too pleased. Let's put it that way. And it's funny, you look back now, I'm in the same hotel in Breckenridge that last year they signed Matt Dumba to. The deal at 5 years at times 6. And remember how Wild fans were going crazy about that contract. Well, talk about a steal right now. Matt Dumba at $6 million. And that's the way this market changes so quickly. And so now all of a sudden, as Johnson from Wisconsin says, again, pricing out might be the wrong term, but without a doubt, if the Wild had, or if Paul Fenton had in his mind that he was going to get Jared Spurgeon something in the 6.5 range, I would be beyond shocked at this point. Jared Spurgeon would have to essentially override his agent and say, all right, I'll just sign it for him to get something that low at this point. I got to think that Trouba contract is going to make Eustace King now shoot for the stars.
FixologyRepair.com, downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, downtown St. Paul in the Skyway, new location between Town Square and Wells Fargo Place in the Skyway. And at the Mall of America, the big shop where they have tons of watches and everything else.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at FixologyRepair.com or at FixologyMN on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
From Kyle Bonstrom, any new rumors, or is this the team going into next year, and why hasn't Gardner signed yet?
Well, I mean, Gardner hasn't signed yet because, I mean, there's a gazillion reasons why Gardner hasn't signed. I think he was looking for a long-term deal at big money. He's coming off of, a back injury where he didn't have surgery. So I think that even though that MRI shows that he's healed really well, and that is an absolute fact, I do think that some people get concerned when you don't have surgery because they look at Zach Parise, who tried to rehab naturally and basically delayed the inevitable, where eventually his back gave out and he needed surgery. And Gardner has very similar, very almost identical injury to what Zach had, that he eventually needed the discectomy. I do think that Gardner had a couple options that he turned down. I think that there were a couple places that he was identifying that he hoped to sign with that didn't sign him. And my sense now is that Gardner has a deal that is pretty much a handshake type of contract right now, which means nothing. And that team needs to make a trade. That's just reading the tea leaves, doing some intel on that. I do think that Jake, in his mind, knows where he's probably going, but that team can't sign him yet until they trade probably a high-priced defenseman. And that's not easy this time in the summer. So that's why it's like, even though Jake might feel confident that he's going there, I got to think there's uneasy feelings because if they can't afford him and you can't make a trade, then they can't afford him. So we'll see. If all of a sudden you see a team here in the next little bit trade a high-priced defenseman out of the blue, it would not be shocking if Gardner is going to that team. In terms of is this the team going into next year? I'm just going with what Paul Fenton said at his July 1st presser, is that he's comfortable with this team and that most likely that this is the team. Now, that doesn't preclude him from trying to make trades. I'm sure he's checked in on a bunch of things. But right now, as we've seen, not just with the Paul Fenton last summer, but throughout the league, there's very few trades after July 1st in the NHL. Very few. It almost never happens. And in August, these GMs go on vacation. I mean, Paul, you cannot get a GM to even usually email you back in the month of August. They are gone. They leave the country. They turn their phones off. They go to everything from the Orient to the Bahamas. I've seen it all the last 4 or 5 summers. And so it's just very hard before training camp to make any moves. So I do genuinely believe that this will be the team to start the year. But there's no doubt that Paul is at least continuing to try to talk to teams about trades.
Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund, he handles my insurance. He handles Michael's insurance. We just moved in a new house, and he helped us with that. He also provides financial services.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
Here's an interesting one. Darren Walker, former NHL GM in Minnesota, and Brian Burke, who you know well, and I covered a little bit in the Olympics, said on Toronto radio this week that it was always his dream to return home and run the Wild. How cool would that be? That would rock the state of Twin Cities media coverage, but Burke does say he's retired.
Yeah, I mean, this has been something for years. When Chuck Fletcher was up for the job, Craig Leopold at least called in on Brian Burke, even before that, actually. So, I think at this stage it's probably unlikely, but it would be fun as that was the person that tweeted that question alluded to. It would be fun from a media's perspective. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's a blast. From Sean Phillip, is Dumba coming back this year fully healthy?
Yeah, I mean, he better. But again, this was a major injury, and what's he going to look like right off the hop? Is he going to have the same snap on that shot? Is he going to go into corners and be willing to take hits? I mean, this was a major injury, a long rehab, and psychologically, it's funny. I had coffee with Zach Parise the other day, and he talked about how just instrumental it would be for Dumba to come back and be on top of his game, because if you remember, 10 of their 11 shutouts last year came after Dumba got hurt. The Wild were a top 12 team offensively with Matt Dumba, and they were dead last without Matt Dumba. So it's imperative that he comes back and is the same Matt Dumba, but to ask him, that's easier said than done. And for all of us to just expect him to be the same player that had 12 goals in 35 games or whatever it was at the time of his injury, I think is probably unrealistic, and there might need to be some patience there.
From Jacob Burkhart, can you talk about the David Clarkson trade? Because I'm still confused on how that's a legal thing you can do. There's going to be a lockout, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, regardless of that's going to be a loophole that's going to have to be tightened up. I mean, it is insane that this is allowed, and this was just asking for it. When the league started to allow all these teams to start trading dead money to circumvent the cap, but by the way, on another subject, attack teams like the Wild that do things legally and then hit them with cap recapture penalties and Parise and Suter for allegedly circumventing the cap is another story. But they allowed all this happen. I mean, they allowed Chris Pronger to be traded while he was working for the league. I mean, it's insane, the stuff that they allowed. So in this case, and not to get into the intricacies, and I will say I haven't studied up on it totally, but the way that I understand it here is that David Clarkson's contract, he's been hurt for 2 or 3 years now. He's got a major back injury. He was traded, his contract was essentially traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets originally for Nathan Horton, another guy that was effectively retired. And all this was so they could both use teams to go on LTIR, long-term injury reserve, to spend above the cap. Well, then what happened is that David Clarkson contract went to Vegas. Well, Vegas is now sitting there, and they're trying to get under the cap. So what they did is they traded the David Clarkson contract to the most cap-strapped team in the league, the Maple Leafs, who's trying to get Marner done, along with a draft pick for a backup goalie. Well, now everybody's like, what the heck are you doing? How can a team that's trying to shed money so they can re-sign Mitch Marner now take Clarkson back? Well, what they're going to do is they're going to put Clarkson on LTIR. They already have Horton on LTIR. What LTIR allows you to do is to allow you to spend over that money above the cap. So in a genius move, the Maple Leafs front office has essentially found a loophole. This is my opinion, but they found a loophole that has now created technically $10.5 million of cap space. Now, the thing with LTIR is that if you put a guy on LTIR, when he comes back, you got to get back within the salary cap rules. So you have to become all of a sudden cap compliant again. Well, these guys aren't going to play, so they have given themselves essentially $10.5 million of cap space to re-sign Marner. This is just my opinion that that's what they're doing. And so the interesting thing here is what this might tell us is that Marner will not be able to sign with them until opening night or around opening night, because you can't technically create that cap space until they're put on LTIR opening night, but the day before. So there's a great chance that the Maple Leafs, in a genius move here, figured out a way to re-sign Mitch Marner. And to get to Jacob Burkhart's question, he's confused on how this is legal. It shouldn't be legal. If you're going to have a hard salary cap, you shouldn't essentially give this team the ability to now spend over the cap or essentially have a luxury tax. I mean, they've basically just turned this into baseball, and they're not going to be punished for this because there won't be an overage. They're going to do it completely within the legal limits of the collective bargaining agreement. And so how this is allowed is just beyond me. And, whether or not that's going to cause a lockout, as Jacob asked, I don't know. But it's definitely something I got to think now is going to be something that Bill Daly's, when he writes the new CBA with Donald Fair, he's going to have to button that up, because it just doesn't seem like it's right that they are able to do this.
There are two ways you can eat good food and support the Russo-Souhan Show and TalkNorth.com. One is go to TinShedMN.com. Check out what Tin Shed has to offer, including lunch deals, kids eating free, happy hours, everything else. Also, you get to see a photo of Michael Russo's face right there on the website. It's very exciting. TinShedMN.com. Also, BiteSquad.com. Use a promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery fee waived. After that, just use it because it's a great service. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, anywhere you are, avoiding lines, weather, traffic, parking, everything else. You'll get restaurant quality food in your home without having to do dishes or anything else. Check it out. BiteSquad.com, BiteSquad, the app. Let's see. The next question was,
how come we don't see Jim Souhan's face on their website?
Because you're the star. I'm the facilitator. You are the star. You are, let's see, who are you? You're marrying Gabrick, and I am
Alex Henry.
Alex Henry. I'm not good enough to be Alex Henry, but I'll take the compliment.
How about that Alex Henry? I still, to this day, it's a great trivia question. Who was the first captain after the lockout in the 2005-06 season? Remember when they had the monthly captains?
Yep.
It was Alex Henry.
Alex Henry. Wow.
It's crazy, huh?
That's awesome. From good memory, by the way. But from B. Steph 12, how's Suter's ankle? Does the team expect any improvement from him, or will he only, in quotation marks, be an all-star, not a Norris contender from now on? Hashtag stop the hate.
I was wondering where he was going with that, so I now sense the sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
When I haven't talked to Suter since probably June 29th or 30th, but I talked to him for a long time that one of those days, and he was feeling great at the time. But I was talking to him for other reasons. Didn't talk to him really about his health, but I know he's working out and he's coming in ready to play.
All right, cool. From North Star Fan for Life, what's the number one question you haven't been asked about the Wild yet this offseason?
That I haven't been asked? I don't know. I thought that it was going to ask about. I haven't been a lot asked about Kaprizov lately, so I haven't been asked that a lot. Boy, that was a jumble of words, huh?
From Justin Caesar wears pants sometimes. How does a fan reconcile wanting a GM to make a trade with not trusting the GM to make a good trade?
Go to the Alps and forget about life.
From our friend MJ, what summer sports teams and leagues do you follow? And when is the wiffle ball extravaganza this summer? And will you post the Beauty League teams and honorary coaches for Mary?
What sports teams or leagues do I cover? I mean, I always cover baseball. I mean, follow baseball during the off season, mm-hmm. and have definitely been paying attention to the Twins lately. But that's probably it. I mean, I'm really. I mean, I know this sounds awful, but I don't have a favorite team of any sport. I haven't since I was a kid. I don't know if it's just the sports radar in me or what, but I am one of those people. I have no fandom to any team. So that's just when I was a kid, I was a diehard Expos fan, diehard Bulls fan, diehard Bears and Raiders fan. Not even any of the New York teams, and I grew up there. And then I was an Islander fan. And then I guess one New York team. Wiffle ball tournament's August 10th, I believe. I'm not partaking, but I am going. And the Beauty League, I'll start covering those games next month.
From Mark, do the Wild have the assets to acquire a present or process